our job is a problem-solving job. And so you're thinking about what do I need to fix? What do I need to be aware of? As a customer, you could see it as an inconvenience. Why do I have to come in 3 times? The customers that get the most out of it are the ones that enjoy the process.
We're here at Huntsman today, and we're here on the cutting floor. So I met Mike, so let's talk to him and see how things are going. Hey Mike.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I originally met Mike at Pitiomo like somewhat 10 years ago.
Yeah, probably about 10 years ago now.
At the time, I think you worked maybe at a different house?
Yeah, I was working at Cad and the Dandy, yeah, so I started my career.
So where did you move here?
I've been here since January now, so I was at Geeves and Hawkes for about 5 years, and then I went over to Sloane Square. I was looking after the bespoke department at Oliver Brown, and then I just joined Huntsman at the start of the year.
Interesting. Why did you come here?
I mean, it's obviously a very prestigious house. It was nice to come back to the row, back to the community, and yeah, I guess just taking on more responsibility as well.
Excellent. So what's your title here now?
Just cutter.
Cutter?
Yeah, keep it simple and humble. Interesting.
So, I mean, with your experience, how is a pattern that you cut different Huntsman than maybe at other houses you worked at?
I think obviously Huntsman's got its iconic style of the one button, and it's kind of derived from the hacking jacket. So it's got slightly longer skirt, and so when you're fitting into cutting a house style, you really want to honour that, and you want to kind of expand on something in a way that's honouring that. And so with the one button, you're working with the proportions to balance out the jacket. There's certainly this fulcrum point of the button position, creating a nice strong shoulder, clean chest with the Huntsman style. And so I think it's important as a cutter to fit into the house style when you're working for a prestigious house like this.
So do you just cut the coats or also the trousers, waistcoats?
Trousers, waistcoats, overcoats, shooting wear, formal wear, so morning wear, tailcoats.
So do you have to adjust your style to the house?
Yeah, very slightly, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to be working against the house style. Even if you can cut different ways, you want to be part of a cohesive team, and also creating some sort of uniformity for customers. And then really where the bespoke element comes in is the fit for each individual, some stylistic differences.
So were you kind of trained on it? Was it like, hey, you come in and here, these are all the hallmarks of our style? Or did you pick it up by just visually looking at it?
Yeah, I mean, I of course knew about Huntsman anyway. I knew about the house style, and when I came here, that was part of the conversation about what are the defining aspects of a Huntsman cut.
Test. Could you rehash them for us?
I did do a trial day here and cut a pattern for Dario, the head cutter. So, but yeah, I'm in a part of my career where I'm confident. So I wasn't too worried about that.
Okay, so they had you made basically a trial pair of trousers just to see?
A jacket and a trouser.
Okay.
Yeah, so take some measurements, draft a pattern. They made it up into a fitting, and then check that it was somewhere close.
Nice. But did they communicate specific, is it like when I walked over there, I saw a specific, kind of almost core values. Does that exist for the Huntsman house style where you have like a list of all the things that you consider?
Yes, yeah, in a loose sense, they've got some, even in the making of the garment, what kind of trimmings go into it, how strong we want the shoulder to be.
Nice.
And so, it's definitely something that's communicated, and it makes it easier to assimilate that into your way of working also.
So what are you working on right now?
I'm just checking a trouser pattern. So
quite short legs, it seems, right?
He's a little on the short side, reasonably slight. He's got a small waist, this gentleman, and slightly wider hips. So I've got an apprentice, Josh, who I work with. So Josh cut this pattern. So I'm just checking over, and this is the gentleman's jacket pattern here, which I cut. So yeah, we're just when you're working in a team.
And I see a photo here. So you work with photos?
Yeah, we work with photos. So you're working with a set of measurements. So if let me just cover the customer's name for, but yeah, we're working with a set of measurements, observations on an individual's posture, and we're to help us with that the posture, which is really important for getting the right balance of a jacket, a pair of trousers, any garment really. You're looking at how those measurements are distributed around the body. So images are really helpful for that, because you might take some measurements and then it might be 2 weeks till you get around to actually drafting the pattern. So you want some things to be able to really inform that and remind you.
But even here, I see like date, that it says like July 2024. It's now September, so it's like quite a while until you actually.
So we're working on a number of garments at the same time. So you kind of we have to juggle around. Right, okay, this customer's not going to be around for a while, so this one we don't need to get to right away. There'll be other ones which we'll need to cut almost immediately, and so it's always a bit of a juggling act. But
I like all the little abbreviations, sloped, forward SH, hips forward, square.
Yeah, forward shoulders, flat back, prominent seat, and.
So what's prom's ST then?
Prom stomach.
So. Prom stomach. Knock knees, bow legs.
Yeah, so with figurations, the balance is really important of a jacket, and that's what means that we can cut a jacket that's going to be able to be unbuttoned, and it's going to retain all this shape. It's going to hang nicely at the front.
How do you achieve that?
It's the length from the shoulder and the back neck, which is where a jacket's locked in.
So when you talk about balance of the jacket, it's like you unbutton it and you keep the shape.
Yeah.
Now, when you have a lightweight linen fabric,
it
probably is a different result than if you have an 18-ounce tweed.
Yeah, and we'll if we've made for a customer before and they've had something like an 18-ounce tweed, and then they come in and order a linen, even though the pattern's been adjusted through that first fitting process, we'll always do a fitting again. Different cloth reacts slightly differently.
Oh, totally. And you almost, like, if you take the exact same pattern, the garment gets tighter with a heavier, thicker fabric.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you're thinking about one, the visual, and also you're thinking about the comfort aspects. You might need a little bit more drape in the back, and if someone's wearing a tweed, they might be wearing some knitwear underneath, things like this. So these are all considerations, and I feel very privileged that the way that we work, we're getting to have conversations at the start of the process for each of the fittings with the individual that's actually going to be wearing the garment. And,
so you understand, are you going to wear sweaters underneath? Is it just going to be with a thin shirt? All those things that go in.
Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation, and it's a collaborative process. We don't, even though we've got a famous house style, we don't force customers into having exactly what we dictate. It's part of a conversation, and we're here to guide and assist them. But we like to put the customer in the place of being the designer of their own garment, really. And some customers will need a lot more guidance. Some will come with a very clear idea, and it's just about our execution, really.
So are there particular, things that you really enjoy, like maybe, special pleat configurations in the back, things that challenge you that you don't do all day, or?
There are definitely things that challenge me. I've just been working on this raglan sleeve overcoat.
Yeah, let's walk over there and have a look together.
Yeah, so this was a challenging garment, because when we talk about the balance of the garment, it's about the length of, it's the relationship of between the back and the front of the garment and the left and the right. And a lot of that is done through the shoulder. When you've got a raglan sleeve, the sleeve is the shoulder, so it's it's very difficult to adjust. So yeah, this.
Does that mean there's more iron work necessary?
Do you know what? We actually use less iron work these days, mainly because we're working with a lot lighter weight cloth. We use a lot of, still use a lot of iron work with the trouser to, shape, shrink, and stretch. But in a jacket, there's some iron work in the chest area, and when you're canvassing the forepart. Also in the sleeve slightly, but yeah, there is, the body's got to get drawn in here so that the sleeve can be eased in and things like that. So, there's a lot of nuance and art in even just putting a garment together to the marks.
So would you say raglan sleeves off the rack are almost impossible to get the right fit?
No, not really. I think they're quite a forgiving garment because they're quite a full cut, so most people can buy a raglan
and put it on initially. But I found with trench coats particularly, I've never been a huge fan of raglan because I felt like the armhole was deeper, and as I moved, I felt more restriction.
Yeah.
Which is something I don't like, right?
Yeah.
I like to move freely. I like some maybe back pleats sometimes because of a round back.
Yeah.
So I just feel a jacket or an overcoat should be as natural as possible.
Yeah.
With raglan, I've always found it was difficult. So it would be interesting to do a bespoke raglan and see that impact.
Yeah, and it's striking that balance really with a garment like this. A raglan it's a full garment. It's quite a full cut, and so what people tend to want when they have something bespoke is to have it fitted closely to them, which is a bit of an oxymoron really, and with this particular garment. So it's trying to balance out the having something that's fitted, something that's very comfortable, is not working against your body, but is also true to what we're trying to achieve in terms of style of the garment.
When you cut a trouser, do you aim for a specific rise height, like the belly button, natural waist? Like what are you going for typically?
Yeah, I think from the way I cut trousers is generally it's sitting probably about an inch below the belly button.
Okay.
So I like something on the the higher rise, certainly in terms of modern trousers. So yeah, something kind of like mid to high rise. But I'll always prefer to start a little higher, and then if someone is a little uncomfortable having them that high, then it's easy to lower the waistband during the fitting.
Interesting. And then backs, are they typically fishtail backs? Are they more, belt trousers? What?
A lot of the time it's straight cut, just standard band with side straps, but
side adjusters, yeah.
Yeah, formal wear we do a lot of fishtail back trousers.
Why is that? Just tradition? Is the fit different?
Because you're getting that nice high waist, you can really get that, build some shape into the back of the trousers. It's hugging into the smaller of the back, and it just has a very elegant line, and it's comfortable to wear. Because it's hugging into the smaller of the back, you can wear the trousers a little looser, hanging off the brace, the braces, and so it's a very comfortable trouser to wear.
So in terms of fullness, what do you strive for at Huntsman?
I think we try to strike a balance between something that's classic and timeless, and that always kind of shifts a little bit, depending on what decade you're in, and as fashion's changed, we're not a house that is dictated to by fashion, but the way people wear clothes does change slightly over time, and so we're always trying to work with an individual to find out what's classic and timeless for them as an individual.
So for a person like me, what would be like the hem opening, for example?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that comes into that is what size shoe you wear, because you want it to sit neatly over the shoe. You want it to balance that out.
So when you have a larger shoe, you cut a larger opening?
Yeah, because what we want it to sit neatly on the shoe and to sit over the shoe. If it's too narrow, then it means you then have to take some breakaway. You have to have it shorter, and so you've kind of got to work between how prominent someone's calves are, the size of their shoe, the silhouette you're going for. So we try to lean towards a slight taper down from the thigh to the hem, and so it gives a little bit of slimness to the leg.
But if it's too slim and you wear over the calf socks, sometimes it can be sticky unless you have a full lining. What's the default? Do you go for full lining, half lining?
Half lined, so lined down just past the knee so that it's not catching on the knee when you sit down. And then you want to make sure that it's not going to get caught on the calf, and you have to keep pulling it down when you're sitting down and getting up. So it's working with the individual's body shape and then also the style you're trying to create. And we've seen a bit more interest in like a fuller cut trouser recently.
So when you cut an armhole, I think you cut it more on the higher side.
Yeah.
How do you retain movement? You cut it more like oval, front to back, or?
So I'll show you here. Let me move this out the way. So what we're trying to do is, I think any bespoke house or bespoke cutter should be trying to cut a high armhole. So all houses will talk about
But high is relative, right? Yes, high compared to ready to wear is one thing.
Yeah.
But you also have to look at the arm, right? If you have a bigger arm, like Jack has a much different build than me, for example. So our armholes, he usually has a lot of space also in his sleeve. I like small armhole but big sleeve, but I still need to be able to move.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're trying to, what you're really going for is a comfortable armhole. So with an armhole, you're trying to create almost like a slight egg shape towards this point here.
So it's deeper in the front and slightly higher in the back.
Yeah, it runs up and it kind of follows the shape of your pit, and you're trying to get it to sit neatly into the front here, and then.
Would you mind lifting your arm here, just so we see? Okay, so you would say this is a pretty high armhole.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when you lift your arm up, the whole jacket's not getting, If the sleeve was attached lower, as soon as I move my arm, it pulls the whole jacket away.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same here, right? It's like I'm trying to get it slightly up.
And so, so what's more important than how high an armhole is how well fitted an armhole is. Because you can have a very high armhole, but it can still actually be quite restrictive if you've not got the correct, drape at the back of the jacket. If it's
So with back of the jacket, you mean like, would you point out in the camera, like where?
Yeah, so here really, you want this to fall neatly and, kind of snap to there, and then, but it gives you that clean drape and space, it just gives you a bit of movement forward.
Which I like, it feels quite comfortable.
Yeah, exactly, and you want to feel comfortable in the clothes you're wearing, and you want it to, really be functional.
It's a good point though, because oftentimes you're like, oh, just have a high armhole. It makes things easier, and but it's not just that. It's the combination of the drape in the back with a basically height here.
Yeah.
What else is important for a good armhole in your opinion?
So some places will have a like more front drape. We cut a reasonably clean chest. And it gives a lot more, daylight between the sleeve and the armhole.
This is a Huntsman Cut, I assume?
It isn't, no, but it's, apart from the two buttons, it's, similar in style.
Very similar in style.
Yeah, so you're creating something that's fitted to the individual, and that's what, you know, as I was talking earlier about balance and these type of things, it all comes into play. And then the sleeve as well that goes into the armhole, you want some ease in the sleeve, you want a little bit of width, and you want it to be in harmony with the rest of the jacket.
So most men today, you know, have some form of desk work.
Yeah.
Who order these type of suits.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that, you know, right-handed people have oftentimes a sloped shoulder?
Yeah.
And therefore we have to adjust the pattern left. Because that's the case with me. Like my right shoulder is almost like 2 inches lower than my left.
Yeah.
But it also means the armhole is lower and everything has to be kind of balanced out.
Yeah, the armholes, you know, ultimately kind of moving around, you know, on a jacket. It will stay reasonably proportionally similar on, you know, in proportion to the chest and shoulder size. But yeah, it's kind of moving around on the jacket. If you've got a sloping shoulder or drop shoulder, you know, it's going to move down. If you've got a broad back and a narrow chest, it's going to move forward.
So when it comes to lapel width, you know, I noticed sometimes jackets in the ready-to-wear line have a consistent lapel width, no matter if it's size 36 or 50. Yeah. What's your take in Bespoke?
Well, I think, you know, the important thing that we're able to do in Bespoke is we're able to work with proportions, and sometimes it's about working the proportion to the figure that you're working with, and sometimes it's about adjusting it slightly. So, you know, depending on chest size, height, shoulder width, all these things, the lapel width is going to change. But also,
do you set it visually, or do you start with, I don't know, 3.5 inches, and then see?
No, I always, something I actually do is when I, you know, when I'm drafting, I'll sort of eyeball it really. I'll think about what the measurements are, I'll eyeball it, and then once I've actually drafted the pattern, I'll go and put it on the floor, and then I'll take a step back and I'll look at it from a little bit of a distance, and I can normally see the proportions that, if they're right, and if I want to change them, things like the pocket height, lapel width, the button position.
Do you go through a mental checklist when you evaluate the fit or the proportions and the balance, or do you just look at it and look where things need to be changed?
In the fitting, or when I'm drafting?
Both.
Or both?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, when I draft, I follow a particular method, so it means I'm being thorough because I'm working in the methodical way. So, you know, rather than jumping from that panel to that panel to that panel and then back again, I'm trying to work in a methodical manner so that I don't miss things, so that I'm doing these checks along the way. And then,
would you mind walking us through those steps, or is it too many?
Not at all. I mean, just in a very basic way, I'll you know, I'd draft the back first. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of the balance is from this back neck here.
Which would be the point? Can you point out?
That would be this point here.
Yes.
So what we refer to in the trade as the nape of the neck. And so, you know, the depth of the armhole is taken from there, the waist length, the length of the jacket, and then, yeah, when we're doing the balance measures on the front panel, that's also measured from the back neck as well. And so that's kind of the point we want the jacket to be locked into.
So that's a starting point. That's interesting.
And then, yeah, and so I start from here, getting the shape of the back. This is the centre back seam, and then because we want that to fall down into the small of the back and kind of lock into there, and then we'll draft the shoulder out from there, the chest, waist, and hip.
When you go for the shoulder, do you always try to get, you know, if your shoulder bone is here, you always try to extend it a little bit?
Yeah, it's about, you know, I cut, you know, quite a neat shoulder so it doesn't extend out too far. You know, if it's someone who needs a bit more width, you know, if they've got, if they're a bit larger down here in the hips or the waist, and they've got narrow shoulders, then I'll try and, you know, visually balance that out. But otherwise, I try and cut a reasonably neat shoulder, but it is naturally extended out a little bit because you want it to fall neatly down over the arm. You don't want to see the sort of bicep bulging out. Not that I've got particularly bulging biceps, but it's and so once you've got the back in place, then you're gonna
Do the sides.
you're gonna do the side body.
Basically
So yeah,
here.
this is this panel down here. Yours actually is a one-piece front and side body, but we most of the time cut a separate side panel. And then
What's the advantage of that versus?
you can get a lot more shape in. You know, if you're trying to pull all the shape through one seam or through a particular dart, then you're going to be a bit more limited in the shape you can get in there.
So is that typical on Savile Row, or is that something that is unique to Huntsman?
Yeah, it's pretty typical in English tailoring, in general, really.
Nice.
You know, if you look at like Florentine cut or something like that, they'll generally have one piece, and you know, they actually don't even have a front dart in.
Yeah, the front dart, yeah, all the way down, right?
And then yeah, and so also, you know, when we're, you know, I've drafted the back and I'm laying it on the side body here, I want this to match up pretty neatly, so I know when the tailor sews it together that it's not going to be, they're not having to sort of manipulate it and pull it in one direction. And so, you know, I want to make sure it's going to sew together nicely for the tailor, and then I'll move on to drafting the forepart, and then after I've done the forepart, then I'll be drafting the sleeves. So yeah, that's the top sleeve there, and this is the undersleeve there, which is going to.
So in ready to wear, oftentimes I get the feeling that the width of the upper sleeve fat is strongly determined by the size of the armhole. Yeah. But in a bespoke operation, you could make a small armhole and a wider upper sleeve.
Yeah, you know, we ease you know, fullness through the you know, through the crown here of the top sleeve, and also there's some through this this back side here, and so what that allows us to do is yeah, create a sleeve that's larger, fitting it into a smaller fitted armhole, and that gives a lot of ease of movement.
Because you're never constricted in the front here as you move, right?
Yeah, and you know, you haven't got a small sleeve that's kind of controlling the body, so.
Because I think in recent years, like that tight, slim silhouette also left to really slim-fitting sleeves.
Yes.
And then it, you know, it looks fine when you stand like this, but as soon as you want to move, it's like really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, for me, I've got a fairly slim sleeve, you know, through the elbow, and the cuff I wear, you know, single cuff. I rarely wear double cuff unless it's formal wear, and so I can cut a slim sleeve, but I need the right amount of width in the upper part of the sleeve for that movement, and so it's working out that balance.
So is it challenging if you have people who are like, you know, into bodybuilding or shaping with
difficult.
really strong biceps?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
You've just got to make sure you've got the right amount of width, certainly over the chest, that it's hugging their chest and it's not kind of bowing out. So you need a lot of what's called front balance to get it over the chest and then sitting back into the body, so that you can then, you know, so that it can sit neat down here. You know, what often happens is, you know, certainly when they buy ready to wear, it'll be sitting off the chest like that, and the jacket will be sticking out. And you know, what they'll want you to do is just take it all in, but it's not actually that it's too big. It's just that it's not able to sit into the right place. So,
and I think most made-to-measure patterns, you know, are limited. So I think if you really have strong chest muscles and arm muscles, bespoke is probably one of the only ways to get something that fits you really well.
Yeah, and certainly if people are gonna, people who have got very broad chest and shoulders, and a slightly slimmer waist and hips, then the most important thing, if someone's buying ready to wear, for instance, with that particular body shape, they need to make sure it fits in the shoulders and chest first, because it's very difficult, certainly we're ready to wear, to alter that, and so make sure it fits there, and then you can take it in through the waist to, you know, yeah, make it look a little bit more like it's yours.
But in terms of cutting steps, now at this stage you add the collar.
Yeah, so well, that really happens with the Tailor. So, you know, with ready to wear production, the cutter would, you know, cut every single piece. They cut the pocket flap out, and you know they'd be cutting the facings and yeah, and any little part that is going to get added, you know, the breast pocket and stuff like that. Here, because our tailors are very experienced, you know, the cutter will cut out all the main panels, and then you know, it'll be struck out. We'll match the checks of the main panels so that they're all going to line up and look harmonious. But when it gets to things like the pockets and facing and stuff like that, the tailor will cut that out.
So you don't touch that normally?
No, we don't need to really. And so, and the way that a bespoke collar is put on is, again, there's lots of ease in there. It's not just a flat piece of cloth that's just put on there. They'll, you know, the maker will actually put the piece of cloth on there. It won't be cut. They'll put it on there. They'll base stitch it in place to make sure all the fullness is in the right place. It's sitting nice and flat. If it's a pattern that the patterns are matching, and then they'll trim it away, and then they'll, you know, finish the edges.
You mentioned patterns. Where exactly do you try to make the match, and how do you achieve that?
So you want it to match really through all the panels.
So you have like the panels that they align here, basically, right? You have a check jacket on.
Yeah, so they align, you know, horizontally, and you want it to match at the back of the collar. So if I turn around, you can see it's the back of the collar
here,
matching the back.
And then sleeve, if you let your sleeve down here, kind of trying to match these areas too.
Yeah, so these are going to match horizontally. Sometimes you can match them vertically, but it depends on the pattern, because you know, certainly if you've got a really bold check, then you know sometimes it's better to just match them just horizontally, because it might you might have a really bold check just here, and it's going to look strange when you've only got that little line of the check. So you've then got to, you know, make a judgment call on, you know, do I cut them to match perfectly, or do I cut some negative space here and the boldness of the check down this broad bit of the arm.
I've sometimes even seen, like, you know, German tailors trying to match the stripes up here.
Yeah.
But that sometimes doesn't work out if you get a little more fabric in the back.
Yeah, yeah, and so the you can see here on this pattern, certainly on the shoulder, the back shoulder is about 1/2 inch wider, because that all gets eased in. And what you do when you ease that in, you're creating shape here over the. You can see when I.
Yep. You create a 3-dimensional pattern.
Yeah, so you're creating this space from the back here.
Which is exactly what you want, because if you have a rounded back, then you need more space there to get that freedom of movement.
Yeah.
And then it can't align anymore.
Yeah, and it brings the shoulder forward, so it kind of shortens it here, where you've got this hollow, and then it gives you more freedom of movement over the back there.
So this was the methodology for drafting.
Yeah.
For fitting, is it the similar way, or what are the points that you look at?
Yeah, I mean, as a cutter, when you're walking into the fitting room, there's a couple of different considerations. One, you're trying to, you're walking in and you're problem solving, really. You're looking at the garment, you're thinking, right, you know.
Defect and remedy.
Exactly, yeah. And so, you know, our job is a problem solving job, and so you're thinking about what do I need to fix, what do I need to be aware of. You're also thinking about the customer. You want the customer to be relaxed, comfortable. You want them to enjoy the experience. So you're finding the balance between conversing with the customer and getting done what you need to do. And you know, really, if you're a new customer to a tailor, the first fitting you're going to have, which is the first base fitting, is really, you know, it's almost the tailor's fitting. They're looking at dialing the balance in and getting it sitting neatly on your body. So things like the sleeve length and how nipped in the waist is and things like that are not hugely important at that point. It's still a consideration, and it will be looked at, but we're we're dealing with getting the balance in the right place, and then those fine-tuning adjustments will generally happen in the next fitting once the balance is in the right place. And so, yeah, I like to think of the first fitting as the tailor's fitting, and then the next one is the customer's fitting, where you get to have lots of conversation about lapel width and fine-tuning, jacket length, sleeve length, how much break there is on the trousers, and these type of things.
Just setting the right expectations.
Yeah, and we just had a customer in this morning actually who's he's had a lot of garments made, and he just really loves the experience. He loves the experience of coming in, seeing the garments on, seeing them come together, seeing them evolve through that conversation and the adjustments we're making.
Maybe even taking a call. I'm at my tailor's, talk to you later.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I think it's important for customers to make that time to come in and just say, I'm coming in, and I'm going to be here for an hour or whatever, and enjoy the experience, rather than, because you can, as a customer, you could see it as an inconvenience. Why do I have to come in 3 times? Some customers just want their suit. They come in, they pay, they want their suit, and the customers that get the most out of it are the ones that enjoy the process and
take time for the fittings.
Yeah, exactly. And it's taking a little bit of time out of whatever you've got going on in your life, and just to immerse yourself in this experience, and what you put in, you get out. Nice.
So I've seen like Italian tailors, like in Naples, they're going more like, rock of the eye, and then I've seen like German tailors who use the Müller und Sohn pattern or Rundschopper.
Yeah.
Like they're very systematic, very accurate.
Yeah.
And then as a result, sometimes with the rock of the eye, you maybe get different length jacket. Everything is a little more handmade.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I think probably somewhere in between the two, really. I think it's good to have a good drafting system. A good drafting system is a place of good foundation, and something you understand that is replicable, has some uniformity. And then what they call rock of eye comes in, is when you're looking at things like proportions, and I'm at a stage in my career where I can look at a pattern. As I said earlier, I like to put it on the floor once it's drafted before I chop it out, and I'll look at it and I'll say, I'm going to move that pocket down 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to just nibble that little bit off the back drape, and it's those things where the artistry comes in. But it doesn't really make sense for me to draft a whole pattern rock of eye and freehand. It's you're trying to have some accuracy and something that's replicable, and so I think it's good to have that foundation of a solid drafting system.
So is the base system you use something that you acquired over the years and that you take with you from tailoring house to tailoring house, or does the tailoring house kind of say, hey, this is what we use and we want to make sure we're all on the same page?
It depends on the tailoring house, I'd say. I think, Huntsman here, we all cut the house style, but how we achieve that is, we all use slightly different drafting systems. Mine, for instance, probably, formed from when I was working at Keeves and Hawkes, where I'd done my cutting apprenticeship, and then I've adapted it, adjusted it, and there's been a lot of people that have been very generous with their knowledge over the years, and I try to pass that on myself now. And so all those little things inform how you cut, your own personal tastes, and what you're looking for in a silhouette. And so I think that's why people like coming to particular tailors, why they like seeing particular cutters, because we haven't got a cookie cutter sort of method of producing things. It's about trying to connect with people, trying to understand people, and that's how the best garments come about, from understanding.
So did you have a lot of customers who follow you around?
Yeah, some customers follow you around, yeah. I think it's, you know, some customers are, house loyal. You know, they like that particular house style, and then, you know, some customers are more about the connection to the individual they're working with and the craftsman.
Awesome. Well, that was very enlightening, Mike.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Again.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, Mike Deans, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.